Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Moletrap here, coming at you with another StarCraft commentary. This is the first in a series of tiebreaker games for the Group C of the round of 16 groups of the Ever OSL from 2004. And I'm going to try and make sure I get the colors right here at the beginning, because I sometimes forget to check who's whom, and then get partway into the game and I'm like, wait, crap, who's whom? Anyway, so we got a teal versus blue, Terran versus Terran, and we're going to have Sync in the bottom left-hand corner, and OOV is going to be in the top right. And not in the corner, actually, because this is the map that has the kind of backdoor natural expansion up a ramp, and then there's like a long side ridge that you can go up and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, and we're seeing at the bottom, by the way, Sync is 3-0 versus OOV. And so that's actually kind of a big deal. Like, OOV has this unstoppable Terran versus Zerg, but Sync apparently has his number, because, you know, I mentioned that before, that I was like, okay, well, hey, he's 2-0, but he beat him. Sync actually beat OOV in the round of 16, the normal group as well. So if you're not aware of what the tiebreakers are, basically the round of 16 groups are played round robin, and if there's a tie, you have to play round robin amongst the people who tied. And so this is a tiebreaker group between Sync, OOV, and Go Rush. They all tied with 2-1 records. And so now we're going to see them all play against each other. And basically, the first player to beat two of the others, the other two, will advance. And then between the other two who got beaten, whichever one beats the other one will also advance. So that's the situation here, right? So, for example, Sync versus OOV is this game, right? Let's say OOV wins, and then OOV beats Go Rush is the next game, actually, right? So OOV versus Go Rush is game 2 of the tiebreakers. And then OOV would advance, but then Go Rush and Sync would have to play against each other, and whoever won that game would also advance in that tiebreaker game. So a lot on the line in just a few amount of games, basically, in these tiebreakers. So curious to see how this goes. And yeah, I mean, can Sync make it 4-0 against OOV in their careers? That'd be pretty freaking crazy. Anyway, so we see Sync has got his gas going already. He's going out for a... What is going on here, actually? Where is that SCV going? Is he... Oh, is he scouting for proxy or something like that? Okay. Wants to make sure nothing cheesy's going on here. OOV, however, I actually stopped paying attention because I was looking over at the list of names. Did OOV get another base? It looks like he did not. I thought he was thinking about getting another base up in that top right corner. Going for quick expansion, but I don't think he has. That'd be very unorthodox for 2004 play, that's for sure, to go for a very quick command center. Yeah, there's his factories. Okay, so he's on par with the tech, so that means he's doing pretty much similar build at this point. SCV jousting, SCV battle going on. Hey, the Marine backing up the SCV. It's going to change the odds a little bit there. And is that a second factory we have going down for OOV? We just saw it get planted down, and yeah, it is a second factory, actually. And he showed Sync that factory. Like, Sync saw that factory get planted down. He had a chance to click on it before his SCV died, so Sync knows exactly what's going on here, and can respond to it in kind, whereas I do not believe that OOV has had quite as successful of a scout. However, they're all both basically in the same exact position here, both going for 2 factories early on, both knowing that Marines are almost worthless in this matchup, and they're using their barracks as scouting things. And actually, you can see that Sync's barracks is almost all the way to OOV's base already. So, if I remember correctly, this is how their game started before as well in the group stage. They started off with a almost exact mirror of their builds, and then Sync just outplayed him in the long run. So anyway, we'll see how this goes, though. Vulture is out now as well. I mean, there are a couple Marines on the map. You sometimes need a couple Marines around to, like, pick away at dropships or to pick away at the floating barracks or something like that. We see that depot planted in a nice spot, by the way, where it blocks the ability for... Oh, what is going on here? Not proxy, but hidden starport? Although it's hidden in a spot that it looks like this SCV is going to run right by it. Sync is going to send his SCV around the back to try and get in a scout from the back, and he's actually going to spot this hidden starport. That was actually the worst spot to hide a starport, because any attempt at going into the back door of his base would immediately scout it. Maybe not the worst spot. I guess I can think of worse spots to hide starports. But, wow, so he knows exactly what's going on. And now, this is what we're talking about. Sometimes Marines can be handy. They're still not super handy against Wraiths. But Sink coming in, he's got a lot of Vultures. And where's Oov's Vultures? Okay, so Oov needed that extra Vulture back at this choke. But instead, he's going to get a little bit outnumbered. And it looks like Sink gets the first volley as well, and so that is going to aid him, and it looks like just by virtue of the fact that they're in Oov's home territory, Oov is going to be able to hold that off with his extra Vultures coming in there, actually even repairing his Vultures as well. And this supply depot is going to get slowly picked away by this Marine, apparently. It's standing in a spot where the other Marine couldn't attack it. Why didn't he send an SCV, though? Because in order to attack an SCV, repairing it, he would have had to move his Marines. Anyway, another battle going in. Sink is trying to push in here, and we do see that Sink has built an armory, and he's probably producing a Goliath right now, but in the meantime, that Wraith is just getting free damage down on the SCVs, and it's, I can't read, there's not enough pixels, but it looks like that was 2 or 3 kills on that Wraith, which is actually a huge deal in the early game, especially one-base play. So Sink actually, you know, taking an advantage in this early fight, and he's actually, but he's researched mines, and he's actually running in here, planting down mines, killing off the SCV, building the 3rd factory as well, and getting all the way into Oov's base. If he can kill off a couple SCVs, he'll definitely even things up for how much damage the Wraith did. Continuing to send Vultures in here, and this is partly a reactionary strategy, because what he's doing is he's forcing that second Wraith to stay at Oov's base, basically, instead of going and doing more damage. So, and he's landed his barracks just to make it, you know, Wraiths do less damage versus ground units than they do versus air, so that barracks is going to last a little bit longer on the ground. But wow, so kind of a crazy exchange here where Sink running in with a lot of Vultures, doing some significant damage. Looks like Oov's barracks is about to burn down over that gap, and I was going to mention that we saw the depots planted in those spots near that choke to make sure that the barracks couldn't land in those gaps in order to block them, so that's what was going on there. But yeah, so Sink now has Goliaths out as well, so the Wraiths are not going to be too big of a deal. There's no cloak coming or anything like that. He'd in fact have to move the starport in order to put a control tower on it to try and research cloak. So yeah, the Goliaths are definitely going to be able to do more than they're going to be able to hold their own against those Wraiths very easily. Sink, it looks like, might have a slight disadvantage in the Vulture count, though. It's hard to say. He did actually, I mean, he killed more of Oov's Vultures early on, but he kind of threw some away, and some took damage to Wraiths and what have you. So I'm not sure exactly where their situation is currently, but both of them have 3 factories, and the armory is up, but he's not taking the opportunity to get any upgrades on his mech units at this point. And I think that makes sense. Until you get more units out, it's not going to be as big of a deal. Anyway, these Wraiths coming in here trying to see if they can do some extra damage. Goliaths are in position, though, to respond, and the Wraiths are not even going to take a shot, it seems like. Maybe they did and I didn't notice it, but they're going to be able to fly around and get a good scout on everything that Sink is doing, though. So we'll see. Yeah, he's just gonna fly on through, say, all right, well, I know what's going on. I'm going to leave now. Just kidding. Just kidding. And, oh, it's teal versus blue. It's going to be hard to tell. I think those, it seems like, okay, on the main map, it looks like those were Sink's Vultures. I thought for some reason for a moment that maybe Oov had run some Vultures by, but no, it's just Sink was actually planting mines in his own back base so that if there's like a tank drop or something like that, he can defend against it. And hold that thought, because we do have a Vulture on Vulture massacre potentially happening here. And oh, Oov is going to get some of his Vultures caught on the other side of the ramp, but he actually holds position on the other end of this bridge to get an advantageous position against Sink's Vultures. So a disadvantageous position for Oov at the start, but he turned it around, and it looks like an even exchange of Vultures there. And the Wraiths overhead, I'm not sure why he's running away with the Wraiths. He could be engaging onto those Vultures right now. Just another big Vulture battle. Again, this time Oov taking a bigger concave on the other side of that gap and being able to get more fire down. Basically, you know, if you have a larger surface area of your line of Vultures firing at a smaller surface area, you're going to get more damage output. And so that's why we see the play, this Vulture on Vulture play around these bridges and choke points is crucial. If you know, if when they were battling on that bridge, if Sink had kept going and tried to force his way across that bridge with OOV having, you know, an extra third or so vulture fire going on, getting the better position on the other side of the bridge, then it would have been the end of it, basically. Anyway, oh, one Wraith goes down. The other one's still just poking around, almost dies, but not quite. And it looks like he's actually keeping his vultures at home to protect against these Wraiths. I'm a little surprised he hasn't made at least one Goliath to go out and accompany the vultures and just try and keep track of them and make sure that the Wraiths can't do any counterattacks. And see, look at how quickly that vulture went down to the focus fire of that group. And what's going on there? Was there an extra vulture attacking Sink's supply depot? It's hard to tell sometimes. Anyway, so Sink has fallen back, and he's actually going to try and hold position on the other side of these bridges, whereas OOV is holding position on the other side of his choke point. Both players know that their position is superior against an assault, and they're just going to hold that spot. So neither player can really attack in the other one right now. And we do see that Sink keeps occasionally sending vultures into their deaths just to kind of see what's going on. Is what he's done it a couple times at least. A fourth factory going down now for OOV. Of course, he does have his expansion now, and so does Sink. Both players are on 2 bases at this point. And did we just see a bunch of idle SCVs in Sink's mineral line? It's hard to tell. Okay, this Wraith is coming in for a little bit of a scout again, trying to do some harassment. The Goliath is still there though, and is it gonna die? No, actually, whoa, wait, Sink doesn't have an expansion. The stuff on the minimap is just the pixels are just mines that he's put there. So Sink is actually falling behind now because OOV has his expansion. Unless, I'm pretty sure OOV has an expansion, right? Am I seeing things? Am I remembering things wrong? So, I mean, with power, yeah, there's the expansion right there. And he's now getting an army out as well. So, Sink really needs to get something done soon with, you know, he's invested more money theoretically into vultures and units because he hasn't built an expansion. But if he doesn't do anything with them, he's gonna be he's just gonna fall too far behind, and now he's getting his expansion up, but I think it's a little bit too late. Like, OOV already has been mining at his expansion for a while. He's got so much more money available to him because they haven't really had a battle, and so Sink hasn't really been able to make too much use of this. Okay, Sink is now, okay, this is interesting. Sink is investing in the bottom route. He's gonna go around the bottom of the map to try and go and sneak around behind. So instead of trying to assault into that choke point that OOV was holding very well, he's going to try and go around the back, I think. But these vultures, excuse me, these vultures are not in the best spot. Wait, what is going on there? I just saw the command center floating. Did I? What? What just happened? Did I miss something? Was there an attack? Did he kill one of his own buildings to make it a better spot for the command center to land? I'm very confused. I apologize. It's sometimes hard to tell what's going on in a mirror match where the colors are so similar as well. Anyway, so, but yeah, OOV has a significant force. He's got tanks added in as well. I don't think we've seen any tanks out of Sink, so that's actually going to be pretty bad. And Sink is actually trying to assault the back. He didn't try and go on the low ground and go down to the main choke. Instead, he sent some vultures up to the back. And this is a pretty good deal, strategy to go with because he's actually able to get this supply depot down. I don't think he can actually go in there. OOV has too good of a position, but he's distracted some of the vultures. Some of the vultures are now up at that northern location, which may... Okay, no, actually, Sink does have a significant group of Goliaths and takes. They're just actually at his main. Maybe they're in case of a drop or something like that. So... But what I'm thinking is right now Sink has an opportunity where OOV's tanks are not defended by vultures. The vultures are all up north to defend against the backdoor vulture attack. And if Sink realizes this, he could go in and he could just plant down mines and kill a significant number of OOV's gas-heavy forces. And that would be a way that he could get back into this game after being behind in the economy. And instead, he's just going to go for a third base, it looks like, and say, okay, well, I can kind of contain you. I think I have more vultures, so you have to be concerned. So I'm going to take another base. And I think I even saw him in that first-person view getting a fourth command center as well, starting to be built. And yeah, okay. So what was happening there? Did we see? We didn't get a good look at it, but it looked like OOV's command center is in a weird location in that top position. But maybe that was a different base. I don't realize it. In any case, OOV is now pushing on the map. There's a lot of mines, by the way. Okay, so that's a significant number of tanks. 7 tanks moving out onto the map as well. Looks like he's trying to take a good position. And, of course, the tanks, if you can get sieged up with your tanks, it's just, you know, even if you have way less vultures, the tanks just do so much damage splashing around on the vultures that it's just ridiculous. But he's actually going to go around the top. He's going to try and siege up on that third base. It's not even up and running yet, so there's not going to be any chance to kill SCVs or anything like that. But here he comes in. No! He's not going to go in after all. I was thinking that was his opportunity. Okay, so now the SCVs are landing. The command center is going to be finished. And OOV has turned around with those tanks instead of going for it. I think he's worried about this attack it has made. And here we go. Is this where Sync is going to secure this? He's actually run by. And this is where those tanks being off in the middle of nowhere is a disadvantage. And yes, his command center is in a weird spot. That's so strange. Yeah, so now, oh, and mines are hitting. Is he going to be able to take out these tanks as well? OOV, in a desperate counterattack, is pushing him with those tanks onto that third base, but not even at the high ground, whereas now Sync's vultures are all up in his base, killing SCVs, planting down mines next to his factories to kill off outcoming tanks, and killing off tons of SCVs as well, and now... Okay, now OOV has changed his mind again after changing it in the first place and is now going to go for that ridge attack with his tanks. Sync is going to lose those vultures in OOV's base, it looks like. OOV has brought his vultures back to deal with that situation. But is the damage done? It's hard to say how many SCVs were killed in that situation. I'm really confused why OOV put his command center in such a weird spot. That's so... I'm trying to like rack my brain. I mean, if you can think of something, leave a comment, let me know, because I cannot think of like why he would do that. Okay, now the bulk of tanks are all up there, and Sync is being forced to abandon that base. He's already lost a bunch of SCVs though. He's building a new base in the in a 4th location over on the right there that's out of range. And here we go. This is what I was thinking. All he needs is like 1 or 2 wraiths to clean up those tanks because they're not protected. He didn't send any other units to escort those tanks. A few vultures could have gotten to them as well earlier on, but he was obviously occupied with his vultures doing an attack. So it looks like Sync is going to hold. It looks like OOV is... Whoa, OOV is just running his vultures right by a firing squad of units and losing a lot of hit points on this. And now he's going to run in as well and possibly lose... Okay, he's going to comm scan and see these mines, but he actually... Oh, he almost doesn't hit one of them. So he's going to be able to kill off those mines. He's not going to lose any tanks to mines. Are those his mines that are next to it? It's hard to tell. I mean, there's impossible to tell whose mines are whose unless they click on it and you can see, you know, the border or whatever of who they've allied. When they would observe these old games, they would usually ally one of the players so that the outline of the unit would turn out yellow for the allied person and then red for the enemy person, so they could tell who's whom which belonged to which player if they click on them. Anyway, this game has turned into a crazy I don't even know what's going on anymore. There's like units going back and forth across the map. There's tanks behind there. There's vultures behind there. Vultures running into the middle. Now there's wraiths out for Sync as well. Looks like he's got a significant force of them. He didn't just make 2 to deal with his tanks. He's made, looks like 5 or 6 of them. So he's built a significant force of that. I believe OOV does has, and okay, yeah, there's a bunch of idle SCVs in Sync's natural there. So that's cool. He's producing, wow, wraiths out of 2 starports, and they probably have cloak as well. And now Sync is running in for a backdoor attack with some more vultures, possibly as a distraction again. Now, before I was saying he could use it as a distraction. Why is there that gap? That's so weird. I think it's because he needed a maybe he needed a comsat station, and he didn't want to kill the armory to put the comsat station in the right spot. I don't know. It looks like he could fit it there. It's so strange. But these 3 vultures are getting work done, chasing these SCVs down, and they've gone all the way around the map so that they... oh, did he actually spot that dropship? I don't think he did. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But it's a good thing to be aware of that's a possibility regardless. So their dropship is now running across the map. What I was thinking is OOV's forces are all kind of at the front. So they weren't near that back door, and he was just like, oh, well, there's no way he'll run all the way around the bottom, around the top. And he did, so that didn't work out very well for him at all. Anyway, so OOV losing a lot of SCVs. I think he's been ahead though in the SCVs in general, and the bases. It's so hard to tell who has the advantage in this situation because things have gotten so crazy. But here come the wraiths coming in, and these might be the thing to turn things in definite favor of Sync because he's going to kill off these SCVs. And then, oh, nope, some Goliaths might have something to say about that. I thought he was going to go in and try and kill off the tanks. And then, he was going to move in with his own tanks and try and secure that position, kill off those tanks, and just establish a nice border there. But Goliath coming in to save the day. I think he probably could even kill that Goliath off if he really wanted to, by the way. So let's see. We got 1, 2... I think there's only three bases for OOV now, whereas there's 4 for Sync. And one of his bases is mining inefficiently because, look, he's got only a handful of SCVs. They're not even in a very good spot. So I think OOV is actually behind. I think Sync is... It looks like Sync is going to take a 4-0 career lead over OOV in their head-to-head matchups because now he's going after the gas mining SCVs as well. I mean, there's no gas in the north, so, you know, he's going to... the upper base, so he's already been behind on gas in that sense. And Sync has a lot of tanks out as well. That's, I think, how I might determine if I would make a definite call for this game is if we could get a tank count somehow. It looks like Sync actually has a couple extra tanks just by bare eyeballing it. OOV is now getting out a decent number of Goliaths. In fact, he's got plenty of Goliaths out now, so he's not going to worry about it. Those rates very much, as long as he has scanners for it, but I think he has 2 or 3 scanners, so he's not too concerned. So OOV is not going to have to worry about too much about these rates at the moment, but you know, the rates are something that are very mobile. He is probably going to be able to use those to go into the back and actually make attacks on the mineral line and what have you. And here we go in. He's going with these rates and a dropship with a couple tanks as well, and the tanks... Guess what? Turrets don't attack tanks. So is he's trying to target down that turret, but I think maybe he should go for the SCVs. And now he's going to go for the SCVs, but they are able to swarm these tanks. Now he should bring in the wraiths and kill off the SCVs around the tanks, but instead he goes for the turret. But now you can just kill SCVs wantonly. The tanks just were there to kill off those turrets, and they accomplished their mission. But here's a counter drop coming in. Is he going to lose one dropship? He does lose one dropship, and both tanks. He's dropping right on top of those mines that were laid like 20 minutes ago. Just exactly for this purpose. Goliaths taking significant damage. They were not target firing down those mines very well. Another mine might go off. He does. And those Goliaths are at such low hit points now from taking mine damage. And it looks like Sync is going to clean this up pretty easily. He's actually even bringing his wraiths back and actually bringing his own dropships in to drop tanks in that position and his wraiths. So that gets cleaned up very, very quickly, including... So OOV loses 3 dropships and a whole bunch of Goliaths, and a couple tanks that just dropped right on top of the mines. One tank never even got out of the dropship, and the other one landed right next to some mines and died. And Sync is producing rays out of 3 starports now. Maybe he's producing PCs out of 3 starports, actually. We see a physics lab, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to shift up, and he may even have been getting air upgrades to go with those wraiths or something like that. So, Sync is just looking so far ahead in this game. OOV does have, I think OOV might have gotten his 4th base up in that middle, sort of like 430 inner position or something like that. But it's hard to see again if on the minimap it could just be a clump of units and turrets or something like that. And look at this, Sync is now again mining with like 5 SCVs at that northernmost base, but it's not going to be that great of an addition to his economy with the command center so far away. And now Sync is sending a dropship around the bottom, and is going to try. Oh, and OOV knows this is coming. He's sending in some Goliaths to try and intercept this force. The wraiths are accompanying though. It looks like he's going to try and put tanks up on the top. He scans. He knows those wraiths are there almost by magic. He saw this coming, but the wraiths distract long enough for the tanks to get in position. They're going to siege up onto the mineral line, and now there's still a few wraiths left that can actually spot for those tanks. And there's the GG coming from OOV. Wow. That is crazy. So Sync is actually going to go up 1-0 in the tiebreaker groups. Sync is killing it. I mean, versus OOV especially. This is absolutely crazy. I mean, OOV is a player who's in his ascendancy in this point in time in 2004. Just came off of, huge showing in the last couple Star Leagues, and everyone has high expectations for him. And here, Sync is just picking him apart in 2 different games in the round of 16 after having beaten him before as well. So, wow. Sink goes up 1-0 over OOV, and OOV just got outplayed at every turn. Every single turn. Even in the early vulture battles, he lost the early vulture battles. OOV, it may even go all the way back to the fact that OOV had 5 vultures versus 5, and then he had one of his vultures kind of out in front of his choke, so it died immediately, and then it was 5v4, and so OOV lost the early vulture battle, and he was just kind of on the back foot for the entire rest of the game. He fell into the traps that Sink set, where he sent vultures around the top right corner to the back door and then left his front door open. So OOV just not really on top of it there, and he tried some cute stuff like a drop. He tried to get a hidden wraiths, which were spotted immediately before they were even built. And just everything that he tried was shut down by Sink. And I was a little worried actually because OOV did get an earlier expansion, and so I thought okay, this is the macro Terran. OOV's going to get ahead, and it's going to be all over. But Sink just did too much harassment, too much damage, killed too many SCVs over the course of that game, and was able to take the game. So, wow. So, yeah. OOV goes down a game. So that's going to be interesting because basically, so now the next game is actually OOV versus Go Rush. So if OOV somehow, now again, that's, the matchup that OOV can't really lose, but if OOV lost that, then Sink and Go Rush would advance basically, because then the last game would be OOV versus Go Rush, but, I'm sorry, the last game would be Sink versus Go Rush, but it doesn't matter which of them won. Both of them, one would be 2-1 and the other would be 1-1. 2-0 and 1-1. So anyway, so the next game is going to be all on OOV to win versus Go Rush to keep himself in it. Otherwise, he will not get any more tiebreakers. And remember, tiebreakers can keep going on and on and on as well. So if OOV does beat Go Rush and then Go Rush beats Sink, then we'll go to another round of tiebreakers. So we'll have to see how that goes. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I'm super busy this week and next week, so I apologize if these tiebreakers end up getting out a little bit slowly, but I'm going to do the best I can to get them to you pretty quickly, probably just maybe every 2 days instead of every day, as I was able to do before. But we'll see. Maybe I'll find a moment and just do all of them and then put them up. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, but I hope you guys enjoyed this, and that was a great game, and that's just so interesting to see a player who I think in like 2008 no one knew his name, right? If you started watching Brood War in 2008, no one knew who Sink was, but you knew who OOV was. But here we have Sink just picking him apart. So, all right, I'm going to stop rambling now and to here. But thanks for watching, GG, and we'll see you in the next game of the tiebreakers. OOV versus Go Rush is coming up next. Should be a good one.